is a fresh political controversy that has now erupted. This after the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library was officially renamed as the Prime Minister's Museum and Library Society. The name was formalized by the central government on the 77th Independence Day. Now, this unexpected lines has sparked a war of words between the BJP and the Congress. Congress's Jairam Ramesh has hit out at the central government, calling it as a bid to distort, defame and destroy the Nehruvian legacy. Senior BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad has then hit back at these allegations, stating that the Congress only thinks of one family and they refuse to go back beyond that one family.
Prime Minister Modi ji felt that we must have a museum of prime ministers. Then the question arose as to where it could be located. The Prime Minister gave this responsibility to what was earlier known as Nehru Memorial Museum, NMML. The reason is that we have a 28-acre estate there. So you have the Teen Murti Bhavan. That was the residence of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And behind it and around it, there is a lot of space available. And that is the ideal location because we already have the Nehru Museum there. And the idea was to showcase the work of all Prime Ministers of India.
So that's the big political story that we are tracking, where, as we pointed out, a mega political face-off has now erupted over the renaming of the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. Now, this was a decision that was confirmed by the central government on the 77th Independence Day. On expected lines, as I pointed out, this has now resulted into accusations and counter-accusations. The Congress is saying this is a deliberate attempt to distort and defame the legacy of Nehru. The criticism that's coming in from the BJP is that it's the Congress party that refuses to go beyond one family. Let me also now bring in our colleague Sharon Elizabeth, who is joining us on the broadcast. Sharon, good morning. Now, this political war of words, many would say, was on expected lines. But the criticism that's coming in from the BJP, many would say, is fair. They're saying, why should we just talk about the kind of work and legacy that has been left by one Prime Minister when we can appreciate and laud the work that has been done by all Prime Ministers? So maybe it's time for us to move beyond one family.
Well, Ridhima, this is not the first time that we are seeing a war of words between the BJP and the Congress over the same issue. Remember, the name changing process started in mid-June altogether. The society, the vice chairman of the society is the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, and he was presiding the meeting where it was decided to change the name. Since then, we have been seeing that the war of words between the BJP and the Congress have been continuing, while the Congress have been accusing the BJP of trying to wipe out the entire legacy of Nehru. The BJP, like you pointed out, have in fact been claiming that the activity that is going to be done in this memorial is not just going to be the work of Jawaharlal Nehru, but of all the Prime Ministers. Now, in this particular meeting that was which I was talking about, which was presided by Rajnath Singh, there was in fact an idea that was given by the Prime Minister where it was decided that all the Prime Ministers since independence, all Indian Prime Ministers, work and their legacy, their struggle for the freedom, the kind of work that they have done on ground, all these should in fact be showcased in this museum. Now, keeping that in mind, how is it possible to name it only as Nehru Memorial is the question that the BJP has been asking.
Yeah.
Because it is going to showcase the work of all the Prime Minister, that is why the name, the Prime Ministerial Memorial and Museum Library, is something that has been decided to give. Now, the Congress, on the other hand, has been saying that the Lutyens' Delhi is not really, there is no lack of place. There could have been a different place that could have been selected for such a Prime Ministerial Museum. Why is it that this Nehru Memorial Museum itself has been replaced as a Prime Minister Museum? So that is, of course, the war of words that is going on. But when we talk about this entire museum, it is a 28-acre museum. So to include include other Prime Minister's work is something that the BJP has been planning for months altogether, and that is why they have come to this conclusion that with effect from August 14, officially, this museum is now going to be called as Prime Minister Museum and Library. So, of course, there is the
Sharon,
Congress
just
party
stay on with us. As you're rightly pointing out, it doesn't look like that this war of words is going to end anytime soon. We want to bring in our colleague and senior editor Pallavi Ghosh also in the conversation. Pallavi, but the criticism that's coming in from the BJP is that if you wanted a dedicated memorial, museum, library for just one Prime Minister, what about the contribution of other Prime Ministers? For example, why was there no dedicated space given to the likes of Lal Bahadur Shastri? And thus, to end all of this, isn't a common building, a common name better?
That's exactly the argument which was given by the government when they decided to rename the museum, for example, calling it the Prime Minister's or Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya. If in fact you go into a new museum, it becomes very clear that it becomes a showcase of not just one Prime Minister, that's Jawaharlal Nehru, but of all the Prime Ministers till now, including Dr. Manmohan Singh. And the argument was then given by both Nehru Memorial, the Board of Directors, as well as by the government was that, we have to accept that everyone has contributed as far as making of Indian history is concerned, and therefore to be selective or naming it after only one person is absolutely unfair, and that's the reason why it has been renamed. Now, what happened yesterday was merely an execution of an earlier order, which is what we've been pointing out. There had to be two general body meetings, and basically this is a logistical issue. The decision was already taken, but the formal execution and implementation happened yesterday, which the government says is interesting, coincided on India's Independence Day, but it clearly makes the point that when we talk about Indian history, we have to acknowledge the contribution of not just one family, but of the entire spectrum of leaders and all Prime Ministers.
Pallavi and Sharon, we'll have to leave that conversation there. Thanks a lot for getting us all those details. Let's take a look at some other political reactions coming in.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर के नाम से इतनी योजनाएं, इतना नामकरण हो रहा, फिर भी इनका संतुष्टि नहीं मिल रही है। नेहरू जी को एक प्राइम मिनिस्टर के रूप में ही नहीं देखना चाहिए। नेहरू जी ने देश की आज़ादी के प्रमुख प्रणेता थे। डेमोक्रेसी की जड़ों को आज सबसे नीचे ले जाने वालों में से अगर थे तो कोई नेहरू जी थे। और चूंकि हुकूमत है बीजेपी की, तो जो भी चाहे वो कर दें, लेकिन जब हमारी सरकार आएगी तो हम इस नाम को फिर से वापस वही नाम रखेंगे।
Let's also now take in some reactions from the Congress. We in fact have Manickam Tagore now joining us. Good to have you with us here on CNN News 18. Now, this is something that had been in the works for a long time. This was just formalized in a way on the occasion of the Independence Day. The criticism that's coming in from the BJP is that the reason that the Congress is up in arms today is because they refuse to go beyond one family.
It's completely wrong. We need to know about the history of Nehru Museum and Library there. It was established in 1964 by the then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri and the then President of India, Dr. Radhakrishnan, inaugurated it in memory of Pandit Nehru ji, because he lived there for 16 years and he has fought for India's freedom and he has been in jail for 9 years in jail. Therefore, in that memory, that was built as the Prime Minister's Nehru's Museum and Library. It has been running till yesterday, and when Modi ji came, Modi ji, we know that he is from RSS, Bharatiya Jana Sangh, BJP, all have hate towards Pandit Nehru. Therefore, they wanted to change Pandit Nehru's name.
But Mr. Tagore, help me understand this. The BJP is saying that's exactly why we don't want to get into the kind of work that is being done just by one Prime Minister. Why not laud the efforts and the work that is being done by all Prime Ministers? What is wrong in that? Because if you say that Nehruvian legacy is being erased, the BJP is saying why was there no particular space given for Lal Bahadur Shastri? And this is going to be an endless cycle then.
We have to understand it. Kindly give me time.
Sure.
I was explaining you. In the meantime, you had started to speak. I am saying to you that Lal Bahadur Shastri himself has created this Nehru Museum. And what if they wanted to create a Prime Minister's museum? They can create it, but that can be Prime Minister's museum, but not erase the name of Lal Bahadur Shastri's name. Pandit Nehru's name. Lal Bahadur Shastri created this thing. It has not been created by none other than Lal Bahadur Shastri. Lal Bahadur Shastri and Dr. Rajendra Prasad created this library museum. Let us understand that thing first. And if you wanted to create a Prime Minister separate, another all Prime Ministers and others, you can call it as Prime Minister's thing. But don't erase Nehru's legacy, which has been created by Lal Bahadur Shastri and Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Why your hate is on Nehru first? That is my question. It shows the pettiness of Mr. Narendra Modi. It has to be very clear that he is one of the Prime Ministers. And Pandit Nehru has been a Prime Minister for 16 years and he has been in jail for 9 years for India's freedom struggle. Let us not forget it. Lal Bahadur Shastri only inaugurated the...
But Mr. Tagore, that's exactly, and I'm coming back to the same point, that's exactly the counter that's coming in from the BJP, that this is not about ignoring any Prime Minister. The Congress is making it about Nehru. We are just saying, let's have a common space that respects the kind of work that's being done by all Prime Ministers. What's wrong in that?
We have to understand there was a building called Nehru Memorial Library. There is another building they are building called as Prime Minister's Library or Monument. That building can be called as Prime Minister's Monument, and this can be called as Nehru Memorial Library. It is being created by Lal Bahadur Shastri and Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Why they would wanted to erase that thing? That is my question.
Okay, Mr. Tagore, we'll unfortunately have to leave that conversation there. That political war of words still continues. There are some other political reactions also now coming in.
कांग्रेस पार्टी और जयराम रमेश की सोच और नरेंद्र मोदी की सोच में एक बुनियादी अंतर है। वो एकमात्र सोचते हैं कि जो हैं वो नेहरू जी हैं, परिवार हैं। नरेंद्र मोदी बने तो उन्होंने भारत के सारे प्रधानमंत्रियों का वो नेहरू स्मृति भवन में आदर का स्थान दिया। मैं भी गया हूँ। लाल बहादुर शास्त्री को क्यों नहीं स्थान मिला? न इंदिरा गांधी थे, न राजीव गांधी थे, न मोरारजी भाई थे, न चरण सिंह थे, न अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी थे, न आई.के. गुजराल थे, न देवे गौड़ा थे। मोदी जी ने कहा जो भी भारत का प्रधानमंत्री है सबको स्थान मिलेगा। अभी तक मोदी जी ने स्वयं का अपना नहीं लगाया है। यह है मोदी जी की सोच, सबको साथ लेके चलना, सबको सम्मान देना। तो जब सारे प्रधानमंत्रियों का वो है तो प्रधानमंत्री स्मृति लाइब्रेरी बनी है।
जिस आदमी ने स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में एक युवा नेता को इतना योगदान दिया, आज उसी प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में जिसने इस देश को आज़ादी दिलाई, उस पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू का नाम बदलना एक कलंकपूर्ण अध्याय है नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार की। जवाहरलाल नेहरू मेमोरियल आज से वो जाना नहीं जाएगा, जवाहरलाल नेहरू का नाम हट जाएगा। लाख कोशिश कर लो मोदी जी, आपकी सरकार कर लेगी, पर जितनी लंबी लाइन वो खींच के गए हैं ना, उन्हें आपकी दया की जरूरत नहीं कर पाते। नहीं, वो अजर हैं, अमर।
This shows the mindset of the Congress party. Today, the Prime Minister's Museum is going to showcase the achievements of all the Prime Ministers of the country. Should the Prime Ministers who have served this country, including Narasimha Rao ji, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, Deve Gowda ji, Inder Kumar Gujral ji, Charan Singh ji, VP Singh ji, their achievements should not be showcased? And if all the Prime Minister's achievements are being showcased in that space, in that library, in that museum, then how can the institution be named after just one family or one person? And to say that Nehruji's legacy is being destroyed and demolished, is Nehruji's legacy so frivolous and so trivial that if one institution is named after generically the Prime Ministers of India, Nehruji's legacy will be destroyed?
ये तो एक कुंठा से भरी सोच है और कुछ नहीं। पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू प्रथम प्रधानमंत्री थे, उनके नाम पर एक संस्था बनती है और उनके कार्यकाल को दर्शाने के लिए उसके लिए एक म्यूजियम बनता है और एक संस्था और संगठन बनता है। और इतिहास में भी, खासकर आधुनिक इतिहास में काम करने में उसने एक अपनी प्रतिष्ठा बनाई है। आपको प्रधानमंत्रियों के ऊपर और बाकी प्रधानमंत्रियों पर अगर कोई संस्था बनानी थी तो बनाते, कौन मना कर रहा है? किसी चीज़ को दबाकर हटाकर, इसका मतलब है आपका कोई उद्देश्य किसी को प्रदर्शित करना नहीं था। एक पूरे स्वर्णिम इतिहास जो हिंदुस्तान का रहा है उसको दबाने की कोशिश करनी थी, और यही हम लोग बार बार करें। अब बनाइए ना म्यूजियम।